most Ninjago sets out there fall in one of four categories: dragons, mechs, vehicles, and location builds. So today I'm going to be talking about the best sets in each one of these categories, starting off with dragons. Out of the plethora of Ninjago dragons that we've gotten over the years, I'm here to talk today about the 10 best ones. Starting with number 10, the Legacy Ultra Dragon. This is a huge dragon from 5 years ago, and not gonna lie, probably the only reason it made it on this list is because of the four heads. The four heads is a unique concept that we haven't seen much in Ninjago, and I think he was done pretty well on this dragon. Apart from that, I like the overall blockiness, and the trans green pieces just add a nice touch. There are definitely some weird angles on this dragon where you can see some odd colors and technique, but the wing play feature makes up for it. I think this remake is better than the 2012 version, but it definitely isn't the best Ultra Dragon on this list, as at number 9, we have Lloyd's Golden Ultra Dragon. I think this dragon is like the Legacy Ultra Dragon but much better, as there are very few odd angles on this dragon, not to mention the entire color scheme is golden, giving this guy a really distinct look. The heads are also molded, which I prefer to the brick-built heads. Overall, my main problem with this dragon are the wings, which I feel are a bit bare. They don't detract too much from the build, but I definitely think they pale in comparison to our number 8, Kai's Legacy Fire Dragon. My favorite thing about this dragon is just how much this dragon looks like a wild beast. The fact that this isn't the typical four-legged dragon just gives it such a unique look we don't have often. The poses you can get this guy in are genuinely fantastic, and it looks so menacing. This is one of the few dragons with an actual good underside for once. I just feel like the head is a bit small, but apart from that I don't have too many complaints. This dragon is definitely an excellent one, but there are some better ones in my opinion, such as our number 7, Firstborn. The mother of all dragons in the show, and this set does not disappoint. One of the only brick-built heads that I actually like, this dragon has an even more intimidating look than previous dragons. The wings on this one are absolutely phenomenal, and there's even a feature where you can flap its wings, which I think is probably one of the best integrated wing play features. Overall, this dragon has decent posability. You can definitely get a lot of poses out of this guy. Or girl. Overall, a big fan of this one, mostly because of the head. But again, in my opinion, molded heads are always superior for Ninjago dragons, like the head of our number 6, Zane's Ice Dragon creature. This one is one of the biggest Ninjago dragons, with its huge head and body. The body actually has 6 legs, which is definitely different, and I think it kinda works for this one. I also love the light blue spikes on its back, but I guess that transitions into my biggest problem with the set. I just feel like there are way too many jagged edges and spikes on this dragon. Like just looking at the dragon, they're jutting out everywhere. I get that's because it is an ice dragon, but I feel like if it was smoothened out just a bit more, this one would have been much higher. Like especially in the back and legs area, it feels like they had a complete dragon and then just added some random blue pieces for texture. But speaking of smooth dragons, we have Eagle the Master Dragon. Apart from the smooth design and curve in the body, I would say that the reason this guy is so high up is because of his personality. The Master Wu color scheme with black and white fits this guy perfectly, and again makes him unique, which is something I can say for all of these dragons on this list. Brown tattered wings certainly give him the old and master type look. The new head and Sensei Wu hat are probably my favorite part of this dragon. This guy just feels like an actual character who can interact with humans, and the designers did a great job on that regard. Coming up with another black and white dragon, we have the Skull Sorcerer's Dragon. This one is another superb dragon, but for completely opposite reasons. Instead of having a unique personality, this dragon is cool because of how creepy and unsettling it looks. I especially love the rib cage below it. This is supposed to be a dead dragon, and the tattered wings add another just amazing touch to this. It's also quite big and bulky, especially those front legs and the front area. And another thing that I really like about it is the light green pieces that just show the energy going through this guy. Overall, definitely a top 5 dragon. Back with the living, we have the Elemental Dragon from Dragon's Rising Season 1. Similar to Eagle, I think the reason this one is so high is because of the unique personality. My favorite part of this guy is how he can stand on 2s and 4s. Apart from that, there are very few odd colors, and the bits of yellow show the lightning vibe. Similar to Kai's Fire Dragon again, this one just feels like such a cool wild beast. Coming up with another wild beast, we have our number two, Lloyd's Legendary Dragon. This one is so good mostly because of just how bulky it is, especially the front area and front legs. I don't get why it gets so thin near the back. I mean, I guess they ran out of budget. But anyway, I think this all gives it a very unique look. Again, another thing I love about this dragon is the head. It combines a brick built base with a molded head, and I think this one's one of the best Ninjago dragon heads. Another thing I like about this guy is the color scheme. Regular green with dark blue isn't something we see all too often. I think it was executed very well on this dragon. The large green wings overall just add the finishing touches, and the play feature with the wings honestly isn't that bad. Overall, definitely one of the best and the biggest Ninjago dragons. However, it isn't the best or biggest Ninjago dragon, as that would be the Source Dragon of Motion. This over 1500 piece behemoth is, in my opinion, the best Ninjago dragon by far. The legs and body are very thick to give this dragon a majestic look, and I especially love the rounded pieces near the top of the legs and knees. Just gives it such a smooth look. Every part of this dragon is phenomenal, including the massive wings. This thing also has so many joints, but all of them are covered up so well so it doesn't look terrible from any angle. Its posability is also pretty amazing, and the gold armor just finishes an amazing dragon off for me. Overall, a superb dragon, definitely number one. Over the years, mechs have become like a staple of Ninjago. They're just a really cool concept that LEGO has tried a lot throughout the years. And today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 Ninjago mechs. Starting off with number 10, we have the Samurai X mech. I don't have much to say about this one because it is on the smaller side. I mean, look, this mech is just a classic and I couldn't not put it on this list. Even nearly 12 years later, it still holds up pretty well. That's because it serves its purpose really well and it's iconic, which is also why it's on this list. Continuing down the list with number 9, we have an insane play feature. This time it's the Ultra Combo Mech. This mech is absolutely gigantic and has a unique look to it, mixing 4 colors for its color scheme. However, what really makes this mech shine is the transformation feature. You see, this big mech can be split apart into 4 tinier vehicles. Now, these vehicles aren't great, but the transformation feature is super cool, and it works really smoothly. Overall, a really great toy for children, and I hope we get another mech like this in the future. Next, at number 8, we have Kai's Elemental Fire Mech from Dragons Rising Season 2. This one is a really small one, but I absolutely love it. This mech, I feel, is the perfect combination between bulky and sleek. It's large enough to actually have a presence, but it has a tech feel to it that most Ninjago mechs have. I think that this mech also has so much posability being a really small mech. Like, fiddle around with this guy long enough and you can pretty much get him into any pose you want. No odd angles on this guy. Overall, a solid number 8. Number 7 is another Kai mech, this time Kai's Climber mech. This one is a super sleek mech. It's thin and it looks more like a robot than any of these other mechs. It's thin in areas, but I think that adds to the look and makes it unique. This guy's ankle rotation, which is something we'll see later on, but we haven't seen before. And you can pose this guy fairly well because of how light he is, which transitions into the play feature. Genuinely, this guy is one of the most creative play features that I've seen on a mech. You can actually pick this mech up and hang it by the 2 hooks on its back. Overall, a really nice number 7. For number 6, we have the Firestone mech. This is where we really start getting into the really good mechs. For starters, this mech is huge, over 900 pieces, and the bulky rocky texture of it really differentiates it for me, as usually the mechs we get are smooth and mechanical. The head print is nice, but what really sells for me is the general build of this thing. It just looks so unique. There is one significant problem, however, which you'll see coming up too, is that the mech doesn't have knees. Now this set was released like 4 years ago, and they just didn't have the pieces to keep this mech stable with knees. But I think that without the knees, this mech's posability is severely limited to basically just the hands. Speaking of no knees, at number 5 we have Lloyd's Titan mech. Now this set is really special because it was the first Ninjago mech at this scale, and mostly because of this set we got other large mechs like the Firestone mech and some others that we'll see down the list. My thoughts on this guy are overall pretty positive. The color scheme and the smooth texture on this mech is really nice. This guy just reminds me of a transformer, I don't know why. But overall, really good looking mech. Again, no knees, which does limit the posability, but this time the mech has a flyer on the back of the set, which adds some extra play. Definitely a top 5 mech. In 2021, for the 10-year anniversary of Ninjago, the designers went all out and created our number 4 Zane's Titan mech. This was the third mech at this scale, but it was the best by far for one reason and one reason only. It had knees. Yup, this thing can actually bend its knees using some ball joints. That just opens up so many options for play and display. It's genuinely fantastic. But getting ahead of myself here, what about the rest of the mech? Well, it's pretty solid. The color scheme isn't too original, and I don't really like the gold, but it works and fits this mech, especially being a Zane mech. There are some weird gaps and holes, but they don't detract too much from the build in my opinion. So overall, just for the knees, this one is going to be a top 5. Now, entering our top 3, we have Jay's Titan mech. This one also has knees in case you were wondering, a huge plus, but I think what pushes this guy over Zane's Titan mech is the overall aesthetic. This mech has just such a cartoony anime look to it, combined with the super sleek build. This one's just very pleasing to the eyes. The color scheme with blue and white really contrasts a lot and makes this thing pop, and the big sword is also somewhat unique to large mechs at this scale. One thing that I don't like about this mech is the thing coming out of its head. I don't even know what to call it. I feel like if it was attached somewhere, it would have been a lot better, but as it stands, it gives the mech an interesting look. Anyway, starting off with our final 2. At number 2, we have Nia Samurai X mech, the second one. This one is another ginormous mech, but it looks really nice. The giant head is unique, and I think it covers up the minifig pretty well. Other than that, the big X on the chest was well done, and I like how it looks. Again, this mech is another mech that has knees, so the posability is pretty good on this one. It definitely has a look that I really like as well. So, we have had 9 mechs to all build up to this moment. The number 1 Ninjago mech, which is Cole's Titan mech. This one's clearly the best mech in my opinion, just because it raises the bar so much for mechs in general. Along with being one of the best looking mechs with its bulky looks and black and white color scheme, this mech also takes the cake for the most posable Ninjago mech. This mech genuinely has posability that even humans don't have. Ankle articulation, knees, thigh rotation, hip rotation, waist rotation, wrist rotation, shoulder rotation, and 2 joints for the elbow. But not only is this mech super posable, it's also super stable. The designers used the joints in super smart ways to make sure this guy isn't falling over anytime soon. I mean, just look at this. A deserving number 1. Location builds are some of my favorite builds in Ninjago, simply because they're so much fun to play with, display, and pose minifigures on. Throughout the years, location builds have usually been the big sets of the wave, which means they're usually phenomenal. So, today I'm going to be ranking my top 10 Ninjago location builds. Starting off with number 10, we have the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores. This one's just a really nice looking build in my opinion. We're definitely going to see more temples coming up, but this one is special because it has a tree coming out of it, which I feel was also integrated really well. The red, blue, and gold color scheme gives the build a really polished look, and I also like how tall and thin this temple is. Overall, a really solid start to this video. Next up, at number 9, is the Ninja Dojo Temple. This one is more on the wider side and looks to be more of like a facade of the overall temple. The interior is a bit small, but I do think it works especially for this build because it means that most of the pieces are dedicated to make the exterior as gorgeous as possible. The green, red, brown, and gray color scheme is used so well, and this temple really stands out because of its size and color scheme. Small details like the balcony and Samurai X cave really add a realistic feel to this build. Yet another excellent entry. Continuing with number 8, we have the Dragonstone Shrine. The main reason that this set is on the list is that it just looks amazing. The designers packed so much detail so densely, and that makes this build such a wonderful display piece. The dragon head with the waterfall is sculpted so well, and the interior in this build isn't too bad. I just love the tiny details along with the cherry blossom tree next to the dragon. Overall, I'm just really surprised that this one ended up all the way back at number 8. but that just shows how good the sets coming up on this list are. Next up, with number 7, we have the Skull Sorcerer's Dungeon. In my opinion, this set perfectly balances play and display on top of being so big. Starting off with the play feature, it still surprises me that turning this tiny tower on the side makes the steps in the front go up and down, spins the blades on one side, and makes the cage on the other side go up and down. And all of that is hidden so well, it's genuinely impressive. This build has so much depth, and the different uses of gray and brown really give this build a super realistic look. This set also has really good interior space as well. Again, a fantastic set, and this list is really starting to heat up. Going down the list, at number 6 is the legendary Temple of Airjitsu. This set was really ahead of its time, coming out in 2015. This set is absolutely massive and will most certainly tower over anything else in your collection. The way that the designers made the roof is a really clever piece usage to give it the curved look it has in the show. The two houses on the side aren't really anything special, but all the tension is on the main build, and really, that's the reason this set is number 6. Entering the top 5, at number 5 we have the Tournament Temple City. The most recent temple, I think this set combines the best parts of the last two sets, with the rocky terrain of the Skull Sorcerer's Dungeon and the magnificent temple of the Temple of Airjitsu. Apart from that, it's another super dense build, and there's so many tiny details that just make this build feel real. Apart from that, don't have too much to say about this one. A really great build all around. If you're a really big Ninjago fan, you probably already know these next 4. So starting off with number 4, we have the Ninjago City Docks. This one is even bigger than all of the previous sets, and it's clear that the designers put a lot of thought into this one. This is supposed to be a real city where people live, and I feel that it conveys that super well. There are also some really nice building techniques in this build, like how they made the docks sideways, and this build is also modular, which pushes it up all the way to number 4. Number 3 is another Ninjago City set. This time, it's the original Ninjago City. This set came out alongside the Ninjago movie, and unlike the movie, it was actually amazing. If you thought the docks represented a city well, this set takes it up to 10. There are so many small details and references that if we talked about, we'd be here all day. This build is also modular, and each level brings something unique to the table. If this one isn't top 3, I don't know what is. Entering the top 2, with number 2 we have Ninjago City Markets. The largest set on this list. This set isn't as densely packed as Ninjago City because it's going for a wider look with 2 buildings on each side. Should probably talk about the cable car connecting the 2 buildings. It's part of a super smooth play feature, and this set does have a lot of these small but neat little play features. I also love the way that the water is done underneath this build, and it would have been number 1 if it weren't for our final entry, our number 1, the Ninjago City Gardens. This one came out for the 10-year anniversary of Ninjago, and I think that it's the best build on this list. It's just so much more vibrant than Ninjago City, and just much denser than Ninjago City Markets. I can see that the designers put a lot of time and care into this build, from the small references to Ninjago's history to some really cool Easter eggs. This build really has it all. Not much more to say on this one, the build speaks for itself. Ninjago has always been really creative with its vehicles, and throughout the years, we've been blessed with some absolutely fantastic vehicles. So today, I'm going to be counting down the top 10 Ninjago vehicles. Starting off with number 10, we have Sora's Mech Bike Racer. The main reason this set is on this list is because this set has a really cool feature where the mech turns into a bike. It works really well, and the set looks really good in both mech and bike form. On top of that, the color scheme is really vibrant with the blue, pink, and white. Overall, this mech is really special, and I hope we get more transforming mechs like this in the future. At number 9, we have the Ninja DBX. This set, from way back in 2015, is really unique even to this day. We still haven't gotten many truck-like builds in Ninjago. This set does have some pretty fun play features as well. For example, you can take out the back of the truck and turn it into a dojo type thing. There's also quite a bit of storage space inside the main truck for weapons, characters, and even the bike and robot that come in this set. Overall, this set is definitely a really fun playset, but the overall aesthetic is pretty good as well. Number 8 is the Ninja Nightcrawler. Cars aren't something Ninjago does all too often, but this one was executed really well and has a really neat look in my opinion. It looks really smooth, and the hints of bright green and gold stand out against the main color scheme of green. The play feature with the stud shooters on the side is well done in my opinion, and adds the finishing touches to a really nice looking build. A solid number 8. Number 7 is Kai's Golden Dragon Raider. This set is really interesting, but the final product turned out really good in my opinion. Its front two wheels are attached to long arms, which means you can get this guy into so many cool poses. On top of a fun play feature with the blades, this build looks really nice and it gets a lot of points for being unique. I think it's a pretty good number 7. Going down the list, at number 6 is in my opinion the best Ninjago card they've ever released, the X1 Ninja Charger Legacy. This build has a sleek look to it that reminds me of a race car. It also rolls around super smoothly, and the fiery aesthetic is enhanced by all the stickers they've used. However, I think that the best part of this set is hands down the play feature. You see, if you press down on this piece, the hood of this car opens up and a bike is released. This play feature honestly works so smoothly, and it's so fun to just play around with. That and the overall aesthetic pushed this set up to number 6. Next up, we have the Diesel Knot. This set has been around for quite a while now, being released in 2018, but I think it still holds up really well to this day. The Diesel Knot is an absolutely massive set with so many different things to play with, like a cool crane function, spring-loaded shooters, a jail, and some interior space. All of this while looking great for display. I mean, this set has just such a massive and menacing presence thanks to its color scheme and worn down look. I genuinely cannot understate how cool this thing looks. Definitely a top 5. Continuing down the list, we have the Destiny's Bounty Race Against Time. This is a new look for the bounty, and I love the shaping around the hull. This time, there's like a middle section between the two parts of the bounty, and it was really well made to be stable and look really good. Speaking of looking good, the thrusters on the side of the ship are super well made. It can spill a full 360 degrees. But my favorite part of this build has to be the house thing in the back. The bright blue just adds such a unique look to this build, but what I like most about this is just how much interior space there is. It really feels like a place where the ninja could live, and the sails top off the build really well. Entering the top 3 with another bounty, this time it's the Hydro Bounty at number 3, and it's another one of those really massive sets. The white and transparent blue color scheme fits the underwater aesthetic, and the mech that detaches from the front is a nice inclusion. I also like the submarine type look with the mini submarines and the big space in the middle where you can store them. The feature with the thrusters is also nice, but it's the overall aesthetic of this build that pushes this up to number 3. Going into the top 2, we have the Ultra Stealth Raider. The Ultra Stealth Raider is one of those sets that looks really good on display, but it's also excellent for play. I love the feature where you can split this build into 4 smaller builds for each of the ninja. Each of these little builds feels complete by themselves, but together, it's just a super sleek and high-tech build. The white and black color scheme really gives this build a futuristic look. Definitely top 2. And finally, we've arrived at our number 1, the iconic Legacy Destiny's Bounty. The Destiny's Bounty was one of the first Ninjago vehicles, and this set definitely does it justice. The head on this build was sculpted to perfection, and the rest of this build is just fantastic as well. The thrusters spin smoothly, and spinning them causes 2 stud shooters to come out of the side. The sails have a play feature with them that works super well, and they just look great in general. The interior space isn't bad on this one either, as you can pull out part of the back area and turn it into a dojo to train. Overall, the biggest and best set on this list in my opinion.